thank you so much for joining us on our journey of voices. It's been a push, and we're super excited to finally have you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now there's a lot that we got to learn about your story and about your past, and it's very interesting. But first and foremost, ground us with where you're from and what it was like growing up there.
Yeah. Well, my name's Holmans. I was born in Goose Bay, Labrador, in Newfoundland. I come from a military family, so I grew up all around Canada and around Europe as well. So I spent most of my youth in Germany, rural Germany, Baden-Baden-Württemberg, Frankfurt. My dad was special service, so he was always away, coming back, and would always bring back tea. So I grew up in a heavy tea culture. Mom was an herbalist, would grow herbs in her garden, dry them, and like back on me here, we just had jars on our counter of like chamomiles and mints and verbenas and green tea and black tea and oolong tea, and we would just throw them together. And that's how I grew up drinking tea. And then coming back to North America as a young man, it was different being immersed into a bag tea culture of like really poor quality, mass-produced products. And I was like, I just didn't grow up with that, so it was kind of course, my parents also told me that pop was carbonated water, so.
Yeah, that's interesting right there. So what was it like, because you said there was kind of a disconnect where when you did move back to North America, you didn't really have the same interest in, cultivating the tea or drinking tea as much as you did when you were a kid, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's because of the tea culture. It kind of opened up a whole new world to myself, Andreas, and everyone's going to see this, but the tea culture wasn't the same, essentially. So
that's right.
When did you get kind of re-immersed into that tea culture that you did so well?
Well, I went into coffee a little bit while I was in university and stuff. Kind of got into that because it was big in Halifax. Coffee, it was an emerging thing. Small cafes were doing their own micro roasting and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. You're producing stuff, but no one was doing that with tea. So the coffee side, I was able to find that locally somewhat in small volumes. But when it came to like good quality tea, I'd have to go to the Chinese Cultural Center or the Indian cultural centers and find tea from countries or order it online and bring it in. So my company actually started as a bunch of us ordering tea as a group, as a cooperative group, ordering it, splitting up between us 12 or 14, 15 tea geeks, and that spread and spread and spread, and then kind of evolved into the store, kind of.
Wow. Now, before the store, there was an interesting story that got you here.
Yeah.
So if you could talk to us a little bit about your profession, what profession you went to, your career, and how that led into World Tea House.
Yeah, well, I was in corporate finance, hotels, and was in that for about 10, 15 years. Making good money, traveling a lot, because the hotel industry, you get to travel, you get staff rates on hotels, so I did a lot of traveling, which was another passion of mine, traveling, because I grew up in the military. We didn't stay put very long, so it's kind of in my blood to move around and see different countries, experience different cultures. And I had an accident at work that left me partially paralyzed and with multiple impacts on my skull, brain injuries, and that put me out of work for almost a year, and came back kind of a different person. During my recovery, I delved heavily into tea, because reading about it, about the antioxidants and healing properties of this plant, I read a lot about people with neurological conditions drinking tea and actually repairing neural pathways in some people's brains. Now, I didn't hold a lot of stock into it, but I was like, well, it can't hurt. Tea's good for you. So in recovery with brain injury, you want repetition, you want to do a certain schedule, and tea was really part of my daily routine where I would get up, I would make tea, sometimes I would do it Japanese style, sometimes I would do it Chinese Kung Fu style, and I would do all these different styles of making tea just because it took a long time to do. I had a lot of spare time, and reading up about it and reading the cultures behind it, and just kind of got into it a lot and started doing tastings and writing of reviews and writing on blogs and stuff like that, and then that kind of got me re-immersed, kind of rekindled my passion for tea, and then went back to my office, realized that crunching numbers for big corporate entities was not what I wanted to do anymore. It was like I don't know, changed person almost, the realization of I could do better. Doing something more small farmed, organic. I was really into the organic movement way before anyhow, but now I really wanted to focus on that. So I went back to work, maybe 6 months, maybe not even that long before I decided to. At that point, I was doing farmers markets, selling my tea on the weekends, because I've been importing tea at that point, small scale, for myself and for packaging, doing some very small blending, maybe 15, 20 blends, and single estate teas. And after that, I was like, people come up asking me, "Where's your store? Where's your store? Where's your store?" I was like, "I don't have a store. I just do this for fun." And they're like, "You should do this. You should do this." So it was also other people encouraging me to do this as well. So it took us almost a year to find this space, and then in 2010 we opened and haven't looked back. Dove in 2 feet, 110%.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think before we dig too much about where we are now and how things come to pass, you talked a lot about the transitions. I mean, you transitioned from being here to moving abroad, and then coming back, and things were kind of tumultuous, so to speak, in different ways, and then even changing from the corporate side to getting out and starting into the hobby, so to speak. But tea was kind of what grounded you throughout it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, in terms of how it felt, what was that like? Because you're doing it as a hobby, and you started getting feedback, and you started getting a push, and just even listening to you speak, it sounds like momentum. Step by step. So what did that feel like going through it? Because going from a certain thing, everyday life, to uncertainty and I've been there, and I know a lot of us have been there and dealt with it in different ways. But what was that like for you?
Terrifying. Doing your passion as a business is terrifying, because there is the possibility that you won't succeed, and to not succeed on something that you're passionate about, it would be devastating, right? And I've seen it happen to other people and friends, and for various reasons, most of them not under their control. So when I opened my tea shop here in 2010, I can remember vividly that morning taking the paper off of our windows, so excited. Me and my partner in here were bated breath. We open up our doors and turn on the music, and there's no one here. There's no one here for like half an hour, 45 minutes, no one here. And then all of a sudden people started coming, and then at the end of the day our shop was packed full of people. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, we can do this. It was a hard journey. I mean, we went through a lot of turmoil with construction and development and all that stuff, but passion and perseverance really does through. And our community support. I mean, we're very active in community outreach. Anybody who wants to use our space for really anything, open mic fundraisers. We had a Tea for Japan fundraiser when they had that great big disaster there. We just do things. Just ask us for it. Yeah, we'll do that. No problem. Yeah, we'll do that. Just because, I don't know, it's kind of what a small business is supposed to be, I think. Giving back as much as you take, right? Sometimes more.
And I know from everything you've said in all of our conversations outside of this as well, you are very much so somebody who's a member of the community.
Yep.
You're always talking about the greater tea community.
Yeah.
You're a world person, part of the world greater community. And the music, all of the teas you have here, and then as you're talking about, you're very entrenched in this community, whether it's partnering up with local organizations, but really trying to bring traffic back to Argyle.
Yeah.
Which has been a challenge, given everything that's going on. I know you talked about the resilience and the persistence. What has that been like for you? Because having to, transition from Argyle Street being vibrant to under construction, and people were going out of business and selling, but you decided in the middle of that you were going to strap down and you were going to stay in for the long haul.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
So stubbornness and tenacity was probably why I stayed on Argyle Street through the construction and development. Since 2013, we've been under development, other than the Nova Center, or doing the streetscape project and stuff like that. I come from a family of kind of hard knocks. We never had a lot of money. We were military. We moved around a lot. Some moves were great, some not so great. And so when you grow up in an environment, moving around, experiencing a lot of different social, economic climates, you kind of get a thick skin. And we had great community support here. There was a couple times where I went to my friends and family. I was like, I don't know if I can make it. I don't know if I can like not pay myself anymore. We've remortgaged our house. I've given back my car. I've gone bare bones on our groceries. I was like, banks knocking at my door, landlords are knocking at my door. And one of my customers is like, why don't we do one of these cash mob things? I was like, what's a cash mob? They're like, well, that's when we have a buying event and a lot of people come in and they basically flood you with cash. For one day, half a day or whatever, they just do that. And so one of my customers actually organized a cash mob. We just kind of put out the shout out on social media being like, hey guys, we're having a cash mob. If any local businesses want to donate like some door prizes, we'll do like a door prize thing. And man, we had such a flood of door prizes. We had like, I don't know, like 15 or 20 door prizes. I mean, we're not talking like little like candles or anything. We're talking like tasting tours worth like $60 each, like for 2 people, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of door prizes. And I'm like, man, well, why didn't I do this sooner? So that really gave us a good, basically paid our rent in 4 hours. So that saved us for 1 month. And then we had a science fiction conference that we did a couple weeks after that we do every year, but this year in particular, people heard about outcry for help because I'm very transparent about my business and about how we were struggling, and so you put it out there being like, everyone complains when businesses shut down. It's time to step up and support struggling people on Argyle Street, because if you don't support them, if you don't go there and deal with the construction, then they're going to leave and then you're going to be complaining they're not there. So step up and support, and they did. Like, people just, like that science fiction conference, people were just like, how can we give you money? Gift certificates, you sell the gift certificates, you know, just basically the customers coming in and being like, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money. And I was like, I heard give a gift certificate. I mean, we don't even want a gift certificate. We're just going to give you some money. And then when you get a bunch of really good tea in, put it aside for me. So, I mean, that just goes to show that people see the value of what I do, and I bring in good quality stuff from small farmers. And yes, sometimes I don't get a large volume of it, and I'll give it to people that kind of help me out and stuff like that. And it's just a good sense of community, and that's really what got us through that hump of this summer, which was kind of the worst part of it when we had 8-foot holes in front of our shop. That community support really got us through. So it's kind of like giving to community for 6 years, and all of a sudden, you know, you're in hard times and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, and all of a sudden everyone rallies for you. Like, even businesses I didn't really have that strong of a connection with, like Propeller Beer and Dirty Nellies and Lot 6. I've done stuff for them before, helped them out with coffee service and tea for their cocktails and stuff like that, but I've never really thought about it as being something like, not really doing you a favor, you're buying my product, so it's kind of part and parcel of doing business with me as a passionate business owner. I will share my recipes with you, I'll show that passion, and they really appreciated that, and they just kind of came back. So it's kind of the whole pay it forward thing that you don't really realize you're doing all this time. It's kind of the person I am. I just give, and people get back, and that's what I serve.
Before I let KB jump in, I know he wants it, because you're speaking to a lot of things and that resonate with me in a big way. And so, being in that, you know, you've moved around a lot and you're used to putting your head down and just grinding, just going through and working whatever the case is, you know, whatever the adversity is, just going about your business until, you know, the end of the tunnel is in sight. Yeah. What did that feel like to get that huge rush of support, you know, from the community and from people really going and having your back?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it made me cry. I mean, it was just so kind of emotionally humbling. Like, you're just in pain. You're suffering. You don't know if you're going to pay your mortgage or your rent. You're like, oh, this is my dream. I built this up for 6 years. Like, it's coming down. Like, how can I stop this kind of spiral from down? And then all of a sudden, community support, and it's downward, turning upward. And it just, all of a sudden, we were on the news. Like, every 2 or 3 weeks, news crews were coming in. Like, I want to tell your story. I want to, like you're in here, and there's dust flying, there's cranes, and then your store is full of people. Like, who are these people? Why are they coming in here? And I'm like, because we're like the oasis of the dust storm or whatever. And so that turned into like an upward spiral of momentum and support. And then when Argyle Street got finished, it was like someone turned on a switch, but turned it from -50 to +200. And now we've been doing like, I wouldn't say awesome sales, but we're above where we were in 2013, which is when it all started. So now I'm ready just to, as you said, put my head down and start charging forward again.
Yeah. And I love that you're coming out of it. You're coming out of the pit now, and I love that. And your values are very much aligned with the store, and you can feel that.
Yeah.
And you love the community. You see the value in the connected community.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you feel that when you travel to different places around the world as well, the importance of community when you're getting the teas from different places? Or?
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of it is learning about other communities and cultures as well. I always tell the story of a South African doctor I met when I was traveling in South Africa. I met him in a little tea bar place, talking about, what we did, tea and porter, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? I'm a doctor. Cool, awesome, well-paying job. Yeah, we paid well here. Doctors in Johannesburg. And, he asked me where I lived. And told him, suburbs, modest-sized house, blah, blah, blah. And I said, where do you live? And he points to the horizon. I said, oh, there's condos over there. He's like, no, way over. And ignorantly I said, in the shanty town. And he's like, well, we don't call it shanty towns, we call it home. And I was like, ignorantly, why would you live there if you make so much money? And he's like, it's where my family is. He's like, for me to live in the city, I would be a poor man. So it gave you that sense of like experiencing that sense of culture and that community, what it's like in other countries, that I don't experience that here on a familial level. For him to tell me that his community put him through school, for him to be a doctor, and he puts all his money back into his community to buy a van for them to all go to work so they can all thrive, and they still want to live in the same area, was, not culture shock, but it was just like this a completely different way of thinking about community and family. And so I love going to different countries and experiencing that kind of style. You go to a place like India, and an apartment building we would think an apartment building here of say 50, 60 units would have 50, 60 families. No, there it's like 2 or 3 families, and families live on floors. So your cousin lived next to you, your mom and dad live across the hall, blah, blah, blah. So I was like shocked. I was like, man, I don't know if I'd want to live outside the hall from my father.
And it has me thinking as well, because it seems like one of your pillars for your shop. So what are your goals or kind of your pillars that you lead the shop by every day?
Yeah.
Come in with certain things on your mind.
Example, treating my staff and my customers with complete transparency. So I let my staff know how I'm doing. I let my customers know how I'm doing. If the business is doing great, I tell them. If the business is doing poorly, I tell them. If one of our farms isn't producing great tea, I tell them. If our stocks are low because of some sort of social economic reason, like Darjeeling this year had a work stoppage on Darjeeling tea. We had a shortage of Darjeeling tea, so I told my customers that. So transparency and this honesty is really kind of one of the main pillars that I operate on here. I find a lot of businesses lose that, especially when they get bigger. Your transparency goes away. You're going to be able to at least tell them like where my tea comes from, the farms, the ingredients, and all that stuff. Where a lot of people don't disclose their ingredients or stuff. I mean, my staff are all constantly telling me like, this is part of the best place I've ever worked, and I'm like, well, that's nice for me to hear, because I've worked in some pretty crappy places, worked in some awesome places too. And I think from those awesome places that I've worked, even some of the not so great places, I take a little bit from each of those jobs that I've had, and I roll it into this job thing.
Before we go into the teas, just because, building off what you tell taking a piece off of everything, because, that is the experience, learning as you go along and growing from that. And I'm just curious because ethics is a big thing for you. I know you have a spot on the website about it.
Yeah.
And as, our conversations about the different, how you source your stuff, but not just, I want to get some tea from here and there. You go in and you do it. And you experience it and you work with the people and you're hands-on.
Yeah.
Which, as you said, is a very different approach from other businesses, big or small.
Yeah.
How would you say, that plays into, your role here, or how you interact with people? Because you hold people to a high standard, whether it's, your partners or your customers or your employees. Yeah. But being hands-on in other parts of the world and experiencing what community and what culture and what all those things mean and look like.
Yeah.
How has that, if in whatever way, how has that shaped you and your interactions here?
Yeah. Well, for me to have an understanding of a product or a service that you get literally from a seed to your cup, in my case, like I've planted seeds, I've grown plants, I've made them with my own hands, I've dried them, I put them in your cup, boil the hot water and I put it over. So I have that experience right from the ground, from soil acidity to flavor profile. I think understanding a product from the birth to the final stage is crucial when you're trying to sell something. So that's kind of how my traveling has brought validity to my craft and to my business, is that the understanding and being able to experience that end to finished product. Plus, it gives me a really sense of connection with my farmers that I buy from. So you go there and you're working with them, you're picking the tea, you're crafting it, you're understanding their craft, they're explaining their passion, and that just comes through. Their passion kind of goes into me, and then I'm talking to my customers, that passion goes into them. So it's that kind of transference of, I don't want to call it energy, but that transference of knowledge and history and culture, and that just kind of goes through that whole line of planting the seeds to going into my customers' cups, into the tea farm, know their struggles, help some of the kids through school, blah, 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 blah. So it's just like that kind of connection. People will be like, now this tea tastes better because now that you have a story behind it, you're drinking it, you can see pictures of me online in the tea farms, and you're like, yeah, he's legit tea guy. Like he's into it, manure and all. When I'm making a tea blend, sometimes I'll be making a tea blend for a specific flavor character, like my After 8 tea, for example. It's based off the After 8 candy, like the chocolate wafer, but it's also After 8, like after you eat. It's a good digestive tea, so it's like a double kind of meaning thing. So sometimes I'll do things like that, and sometimes I'll put it out there in contest. My Mary Cranberry. It was originally called my mother-in-law's cranberry sauce tea, and it was too long. I guess the recipe is based off her cranberry sauce. I put it out there. I was like, name this tea and win it. And one of my customers came up with Mary Cranberry. I'm like, done. You just won the tea. So
that's awesome.
Customers will name it too, right?
Yeah, that's another way to keep the community involved in the process too,
yeah.
which I love.
Yeah.
How has your day-to-day changed from maybe when you first started to now? What does your day look like?
7.5 years ago, it was pretty steady, but it was mostly me and one staff working here. So a lot of hours, a lot of time, day-to-day, stuff, trying to keep up on the accounting side, blah, blah, blah. Now I have more staff and a little bit shorter hours and can travel more and can take a month and just head up to the Himalayas and walk around and visit tea people and work on farms, and it's really nice to be able to do that. I didn't get able to do that this past year because of the financial restrictions with the Argyle Street, but next year, if business goes the way it's going now, I'll be able to do more trips, which is really what I want to do. I have awesome, solid staff here that I have complete confidence can manage the shop along the way. Just to make sure I buy lots of tea before I go.
Yeah.
And I tried running 2 stores a couple of years ago, and it didn't work out because of this store not doing well, number one, and number two, it's this location in a mall. Realize that we're not a mall store. We're not mall people. We're, street level. If we want to have belly dancers out in the weekend, we can just put a thing out and have people dance on our street. Like, that's the kind of person I am. I'm very, not spontaneous, but like to just share the space with people that want to do things. And right, so I need another store like this that I can just do things. Just have it available for anything, community, people coming in, workshops, open mic, whatever. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Curious, because we've talked about it. What kind of a mark do you want to leave in the community? Because you said you bring lots of people in, you want this to be a hub, and it is in a lot of ways. And I know some of the things that you foreshadow a little bit, but up and coming.
Yeah.
Using the street to really create that vibrant atmosphere or ecosystem. What, and I guess you're talking about replicating it in Dartmouth, what would that look like? What kind of a marker, what kind of a feel do you want your community to think when they think of you?
Yeah, Well, for this summer, I want to be the business that people walk by on the weekends and be like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do this weekend? Are you going to have dancers out there? Are you going to have someone playing guitar? Are you going to have a musician doing tricks for kids? Are you going to have a balloon tire? Like, well, what are you going to do? Like, I just want to do like really random, awesome things that really kind of draw people in here. That's fun and very family oriented and inclusive to all genders and body types, and just kind of embracing everything together. It's kind of like what we do here. We embrace all cultures, all ethnicities, all sexual orientations. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. You come in here, you have tea, you talk to Phil, and I just don't judge, right? So that's kind of what we want to do here. I don't know if I can replicate that in Dartmouth. So I'm interested in opening up the second store, seeing what it evolves into, seeing what that community in Dartmouth takes with that space, and see what that community around there will do with a company like mine that's very transparent, ethical, see what that evolves into. Because I mean, you always have a plan of what you want for your business, but it evolves into things completely different than what you want. Like this business has evolved into completely different than when we started like 7.5 years ago. So we decided to, you know what, you're a tea place, 100% tea, everything focused on tea. Even your coffee that we brew here, drip coffee. I joke with people it's bean tea, right? So I just everything tea.
Is there any message you hope people can take away from your story?
I would say don't jump in 110% right away. Build it. So start off with maybe a small online store, farmers markets. Put in the time, put in the effort. Build community around you. You're only as good as the people who help you. So doing it all by yourself, you're going to fall, right? But if you build yourself up around all supporting people, if you fall, they will help you up.
Thank you so much.
Like
Before we let you get out of here, we got to get your official sign off.
Yeah. My name is Philip Holmans, and this is my voice.
Every voice!